This story is titled, At 1:47 a.m., my sister took my card from my wallet and spent $7,800 on a salon package, designer bags, and concert tickets. When I confronted her, Mom snapped, "Stop acting poor, she needed a good night." I didn't argue, because the account she drained was, "Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now, let's start the video. My name is Damian Reeves. I am 32 years old, and I am a licensed CPA and fiduciary advisor with a solo practice in Phoenix, Arizona. I have been doing this work for 6 years. I manage tax accounts for individual clients, and I hold client trust accounts for 3 small business clients, which means I am authorized to disperse funds on their behalf, which means the money in those accounts is not mine, which means when my phone lit up at 1:47 in the morning with 3 transaction alerts on the business Visa, I had a problem that was considerably larger than a stolen card. The first alert was 2100, luxury spa and salon package, 11:58 p.m. The second was 3400, designer retail, airport location, 12:34 a.m. The third was $1,200, ticketing platform, 1:41 a.m. 3 transactions, $6,700 in 93 minutes, and my phone was still going. I looked at the card slot on the right side of my wallet. I keep a 2-slot wallet, personal card on the left, business card on the right. I bought the wallet specifically because I wanted that separation to be physical and immediate. Noelle had said that is very organized when I showed it to her. I had said that was the point. The right slot was empty. My mother, Faye, is 54 years old and has owned a women's clothing boutique in Scottsdale for 11 years. Before the boutique, she was a regional sales manager for a cosmetics company, and before that she worked retail management. And the thread running through all of it is the same thread. She is exceptionally good at reading what people want to be told. And she is skilled at telling them exactly that in a way that feels like truth. She is warm and quick and decisive, the qualities of someone who has built something from scratch twice and learned to trust her read of a room completely. She has almost never been in a room she could not manage. She runs her boutique the way she runs her family. From the front, with full confidence, with a clear understanding of which relationships produce the most return and which provide the structural support that makes the front-facing work possible. She would not frame it that way. She would say she loves her children equally. She has said it many times. What I have observed, over 32 years of being the structural support, is that equal love and equal investment are not the same thing, and that the difference shows up in the small, unguarded decisions, the order of phone calls made at 2 in the morning, the version of events organized before the second call goes out. My sister Brianna is 27. She works in events coordination for a hospitality company in Scottsdale and is, by most visible measures, the center of gravity in my mother's life. Brianna is bright and social and genuinely fun to be around when things are going well. And when things are not going well, she has a pattern I have been watching since she was 17. The pattern is, something goes wrong. Brianna feels it harder than anyone else, and someone in her orbit absorbs the cost of stabilizing her. That someone has been my mother about 60% of the time, and me about 30% of the time, in amounts and forms that have varied but have always been presented as temporary and have always become permanent. The pattern with Brianna, if I were to put it in the terms I use professionally, looks like this: irregular income, periodic debt, an event that exceeds her capacity to manage, a request for stabilization from family, stabilization provided, pattern resets. I have participated in the reset 3 times. A car loan that needed co-signing that I co-signed and she was late on twice. A security deposit for an apartment she left 6 months later that I covered half of. A credit card balance that I had not known about until my mother called me and explained that Brianna was in a tight spot and that I was the only one positioned to help right then. $2,400, paid in 2 installments, neither repaid. I am the stable one. That has been my role in this family for as long as I can remember. Not the favorite. Not the one anyone is proudest of at Christmas. The stable one. The one who is fine. The one my mother says Damien will be okay about when resources are being allocated. In the same tone, she would describe a structural beam. It supports the house. It does not need attention. It does not have needs of its own. She has been wrong about that for 32 years. She found out how wrong on a Sunday in September when I read her a number that made her go silent for 11 seconds. But I am getting ahead of myself. I built my practice from 2 clients and a desk in a shared workspace in downtown Phoenix when I was 26. 6 years later, I have my own office, a staff of 1 part-time bookkeeper, and 7 active client relationships. 3 of those clients trust me with more than their taxes. They trust me with their operating accounts. A fiduciary relationship in my profession means the client's money sits in an account I am authorized to manage, and I disperse it according to agreed schedules and their instructions. The money is never mine. The authorization is never personal. The responsibility is total. My most important client in terms of account size is Harlan Beck. Harlan is 51 and has run BeckVac, a regional heating and cooling company in the Phoenix metro area, for 19 years. He came to me 4 years ago on a referral from another client, and he has referred 2 businesses to me since then, which in a solo practice is the kind of loyalty that means something real. He is precise and fair, and he does not like surprises. I manage his operational escrow account, quarterly vendor payments, supplier contracts, payroll supplements. The account holds $220,000 at any given time. I carry the Visa card linked to that account because some disbursements are card transactions rather than wire transfers. The card has the account name printed on the front. BeckVac Escrow Services. Visa, not my name. Not even close to my name. Harlan is the kind of client who makes a solo practice possible in a real sense, not just financially, but professionally. The size of his account, the scope of the trust relationship, the weight of being responsible for disbursements on that scale, all of it requires me to be more careful than I would otherwise have to be. And being more careful makes me better at the work overall. I take that seriously. I take it more seriously than I take most things. I bought the 2-slot wallet specifically because of the Beck account, not because I was worried about theft, because I did not want the visual confusion of having a personal card next to a client card in the same slot. When I reached for my personal card, I wanted my hand to go left. When I reached for the business card for a client disbursement, I wanted my hand to go right. Physical separation as a safeguard. Organized in the way that prevents errors before they have the chance to become errors. Noelle had said that is very organized when I showed her the wallet. I had said that was the point. She had laughed. I had not been making a joke. I had explained the escrow account to my mother once, about 2 years ago, when she asked how my practice worked. She had listened the way she listens to things that do not directly concern her, with her eyes in the right place, and her processing somewhere else. I did not explain it again. I kept the card in the right slot, and kept the right slot separate, and assumed that was sufficient protection. I had not accounted for my family staying over. The previous evening had been a family dinner, my mother's birthday, or close enough to it that we had made the dinner serve that purpose. Noelle and I had driven to Scottsdale, spent the evening with my mother and Brianna at a restaurant my mother liked, and had driven back with them at 10:30 because rather than make them drive home separately in the late evening, we had said they were welcome to stay. Brianna in the guest room, my mother on the pullout in the living room. Standard arrangement for late evenings. We had done it 3 or 4 times over the years. I set my wallet on the kitchen counter when we came in. Left of the dish rack. Same spot every night for 6 years. The habit that becomes so automatic you stop being aware of it as a decision. I changed, washed my face, and checked my email at my desk for 15 minutes. Noelle was already in bed. I turned off the desk lamp and went to get water. The wallet was on the coffee table in the living room. I stood and looked at it for a moment. Not alarm, more like the mild noticing of a thing out of its place. Brianna was in the guest room. My mother was on the pullout, already settled with the small reading light she always brought when she stayed over. The wallet had been on the counter when I sat down at my desk. It was on the coffee table now. I picked it up. I turned it over. I did not open it. I put it on the counter and went to bed. At 1:47 a.m., my phone lit up. At 1:47 a.m., my phone lit up. I looked at the 2 alerts already on my screen, thought about the third that was likely still processing. And I reached across the nightstand, picked up my wallet, opened it, and looked at the right slot. I almost told myself I had left the card somewhere, that I had moved it, put it in a different pocket, that there was some explanation that did not involve the 2 people asleep in my living room and guest room. I held that thought for about 4 seconds. Then I put the wallet down and got up. Noelle was awake. She had felt me get up. She looked at me in the dark, and I held up 2 fingers, which is what we do when I need 2 minutes before I can explain something. She nodded. She sat up. I went to the guest room door. I knocked twice. Brianna answered in about a minute, the way you answer a door at 2 in the morning when you were not sleeping anyway, which is to say she opened it quickly and without the confusion of someone woken from real sleep. She had my card in her hand. She looked at the card. She looked at me. She said, "I was going to tell you." I said, "Come sit down." We went to the kitchen. Noelle came out and sat at the counter without being asked, in the quiet way she positions herself in situations that require a witness. Brianna sat across from me. She had the look of someone who has been awake since before I knocked on her door, which confirmed what the speed of her answer had already told me. I set my phone on the table, face up with the transaction history visible. I did not speak for a moment. I let her read the screen. 3 alerts so far, I said. There's a 4th still processing. Rideshare and food. The full amount is going to land close to $8,000. Brianna looked at the phone screen. Then she looked at the card on the table. She said she had thought it was my personal card. I looked at the card. I picked it up and turned it face up on the table between us. The name printed across the front in standard card typeface was Beckfack Escrow Services. Visa. Her name was not on it. My name was not on it. The word Damien did not appear anywhere on the face of the card. The name of a company that belonged to a 51-year-old man in Phoenix who trusted me with his operational funds was printed across the front in the same font used on every business credit card issued by this bank. There is a company name on that card, I said. It is not my company. It is not my name. She said she had not really looked at it when she took it from the slot. I held the card for another moment. Then I set it back on the table. "Tell me where you went," I said. "Where did you go?" she told me. The salon had been open late for a private event, and she had paid for herself and 2 friends. The airport retail had been on the way to the concert venue. The concert had been something she had been wanting to go to for 6 months. She said she had a hard month. She said she knew it was wrong, but she had just needed one good night, and she was going to pay it back. I sat with all of that for a moment. Then Brianna said she needed to call our mother. I told her she could do that in the morning. She said she needed to do it now. She picked up her phone and walked to the guest room. 7 minutes later, my phone rang. My mother. My mother had been awake. I registered that first. Not the words she said, but the fact that she picked up my call on the second ring at 2 in the morning with a voice that was alert and organized, not the voice of someone pulled out of sleep. Brianna had called her first. Every time something has gone wrong with Brianna and our family, Brianna calls our mother first. My mother receives the call, organizes the version of events she is going to work with, and by the time I call or she calls me, she has already selected her position. This has been the sequence my entire adult life. I know it the way I know tax code. Not with surprise. With recognition. She said she was going to pay you back, my mother said. With what? I said. She told me she had a hard month. Damien, Her voice shifted into the tone she uses when she is managing a situation rather than discussing it. You're being dramatic. It's a card. Cards have fraud protection. You call the bank, they reverse it, it's done. I need to explain something to you, I said. Stop acting poor, she said. She needed a good night. You can get it back. This is not worth turning into a thing. I almost told her then. I had the number in my head. The full account balance. The client name. The phrase fiduciary account. I almost laid it out in the exact order I would present it to a client who needed to understand something they had gotten wrong. I stopped. I said, "Okay, Mom." I got off the phone. Noelle was at the kitchen counter. She had heard enough. "Which account?" she said. "The Beck card," I said. She was quiet for a moment. "Does she know that?" "No," I said. "Does your mother?" "No," I said. Noelle looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "What do you need to do tomorrow?" "File a police report," I said. "Then call Harlan before he sees his statement." She said okay. She made tea. We sat at the kitchen counter until about 4, and then we went back to sleep. And in the morning, my mother and Brianna were gone before either of us woke up. Sunday afternoon, I sat across from a property crimes officer at the Phoenix PD North Mountain Precinct, and I filed a report. The officer was thorough. She wanted the transaction list, the card details, the account information, the name of the account holder. I gave her everything in the order I would give it in a written disclosure, timeline, amounts, card description, account nature, account holder identity, my relationship to the account, the date I had last used the card legitimately, and the fact that the card had been taken from a 2-slot wallet on my kitchen counter while family members were staying in my apartment. She noted all of it without visible reaction, which is its own kind of professionalism. She told me that unauthorized use of a fiduciary account card in Arizona was a Class 3 felony under the state criminal code. Sentencing ranged 2 to 8.5 years depending on factors including prior record and the amount involved. I wrote it down. I write things down. Noelle sat next to me through the whole thing. On the drive home, she did not say much. At one point she said, "Your mother is going to call." I said I knew. She said, "What are you going to tell her?" I said, "The truth. When it's time." The bank call on Sunday evening was procedural. I reported the unauthorized use. I provided the police report number. The fraud team opened a claim and placed a temporary hold on the disputed charges. The account itself was not at risk. Harlan's escrow funds were secure. The $7,843 in unauthorized charges was a claims matter, not an account compromise. The card was deactivated. I did not sleep well Sunday night. Not because I was afraid of what was coming. Because Harlan Beck was going to see his account statement, and I had to be the one who told him before he had to ask me. If someone in your family has ever treated your professional obligations like personal spending money, you already know this feeling. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales. The Monday morning call is 2 minutes away. I called Harlan at 8:47 Monday morning. His office opened at 9. I knew he checked his account statements first thing because he had told me that in our first meeting 4 years ago, and I had filed it the way I file all relevant client information, which is permanently. He picked up on the second ring. I told him what had happened. I told it in the order I would tell it in a written disclosure. The date, the time, the amount. The nature of the unauthorized access. The fact that I had filed a police report. The fact that the bank had opened a fraud claim. I told him the account funds were not at risk and that the disputed charges were being processed through the fraud claim. I told him I was sorry this had happened and that I was telling him before he could call me because he deserved to have the information directly rather than to discover it on a statement and wonder. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Harlan said, "Is this a family member?" "My sister," I said. Another pause. "Damien," he said. "I appreciate you calling me first." He said it the way he says things that matter to him, without elaboration. "I'm going to have my attorney review the situation, which I think you would expect." "I would," I said. I'm not pulling the account, he said. But I need you to keep me current. I will, I said. I got off the phone and sat at my desk for a few minutes. Then I opened my client files and went back to work, because the work did not stop. Harlan's attorney contacted me by email that afternoon. Professional, careful, requesting documentation of the police report and the fraud claim status. I sent everything. His attorney noted that if the fraud claim was not resolved in Harlan's favor, the firm would need to discuss recovery options. I noted back that I understood and that I would personally make the account whole if the claim process did not resolve it. I would have been legally and professionally required to do so regardless. I said it anyway because I wanted Harlan to see it in writing. On Wednesday, I received a notice from the Arizona State Board of Accountancy. A complaint had been filed against my license. The nature of the complaint: failure to safeguard a client's trust assets. The complaint had been filed by Harlan's attorney as a procedural step in protecting Harlan's interests, which was appropriate and which I had expected. I responded with a full account of the events, the police report, the fraud claim, and all documentation. What I had built in 6 years was being reviewed because my sister had needed a good night. I sat at my desk for a while after the board notice arrived. Not with panic, with the particular stillness of someone who has reviewed enough financial situations to know that the documentation either holds or it does not, and the documentation in this case held completely. I had filed the police report on Sunday. I had called Harlan Monday morning before he could call me. I had sent full disclosure to his attorney the same day. I had the transaction alerts timestamped at 1:47 a.m. before I had even gotten out of bed, which established that the charges had triggered immediate notification and that I had acted within hours. The sequence was clean. The documentation was clean. But clean documentation does not make the review not happen. It makes the review resolve correctly. Those are different things, and the time between filing and resolution is its own cost. The time of uncertainty. The awareness that something you built carefully is being examined because of something you did not do and could not have prevented. I noted the cost, without letting it move me before the process was finished. That is also something you learn to do in this work. The escrow account itself had never been at risk. The bank fraud claim covered the $7,843 in unauthorized charges. Harlan's operational funds were untouched. The damage was contained. But contained damage is still damage, and I had spent 6 years building a practice on the principle that no damage was acceptable when someone else's money was in my care. The detective assigned to the case called me on Tuesday. Her name was Anita Ferris, Property Crimes Unit, and she had the manner of someone who processes these cases at a volume that removes any remaining capacity for shock at human behavior, but retains full capacity for procedural clarity. She told me they had pulled the merchant receipts. 3 of the 4 transactions had required a signature. Brianna had signed her name on all 3. Her legal name, on a card that said Beckvac Escrow Services on the front. She had handed over a card bearing someone else's company name, been handed a receipt, and signed her personal name as authorization, 3 times across the same evening. She signed for it? I said. 3 of the 4 transactions, Detective Ferris said. The ticketing platform was a digital transaction, no signature required. But the salon and the retail location both have signed receipts with her name. I sat with that for a moment. My sister had taken a card that bore a company name that was neither mine nor hers, used it to spend nearly $8,000 across an evening, and signed her legal name as authorization 3 times. She had documented her own crime in ink across 3 separate merchant receipts. Whatever she had thought when she took the card, she had not looked at the name on the front when she handed it over, and she had not thought about what her signature meant on a receipt for a card she had not been authorized to use. What happens next? I said. We'll be contacting Miss Reeves, Detective Ferris said. Unauthorized use of a fiduciary account card is a Class 3 felony in Arizona under 13-1802. Given the dollar amount and the nature of the account, We'll be looking at the full statute. Thank you, I said. One more thing, she said. In cases like this, families often ask the reporting party to withdraw. Even if you withdrew, the account holder has independent standing to pursue the matter through civil and criminal channels. I know, I said. I'm not withdrawing. She said she would be in touch. Brianna's call from the detective came on a Thursday afternoon. Within 40 minutes, my mother called me. She was not crying. I want to be precise about that, because my mother crying would have been a different kind of conversation. She was in management mode, the voice she uses when a situation has exceeded what she can handle with warmth and redirection, and needs to be shut down by force of will instead. You need to drop this, she said. I'm not dropping it, I said. Damien, she is your sister. She made a mistake. She is 27 years old and she is terrified right now, and you are her brother. She spent nearly $8,000, I said. The card she used was not mine. What do you mean it's not yours? I had been waiting for this question for 4 days. The card is linked to a client trust account, I said, a fiduciary account. The money in that account belongs to my client. His company name is on the front of the card. The account holds $220,000, and I am legally responsible for every dollar of it. My mother did not speak. Brianna signed her name on 3 merchant receipts, I said, using a card that had my client's company name printed across the front. That is not unauthorized use of a personal card, Mom. That is theft from a business trust account. In Arizona, that is a Class 3 felony, 2 to 8.5 years. The line was quiet, not the managing quiet. A different kind entirely. I counted 11 seconds. I didn't know it was a client card, she said finally. I know, I said. That's why I didn't tell you Sunday night. A pause. You should have told me. You told me to stop acting poor, I said. You told me she needed a good night, and I could get it back. I needed you to understand what you were dismissing before you dismissed it. If I had told you Sunday night, you would have managed that information the same way you managed everything else. You would have organized a version of it that was easier for Brianna. And then I would have had to fight 2 versions of what happened instead of 1. My mother said nothing. I had not planned to say that. I had planned to deliver the information and get off the phone. But I had said it, and it was accurate. And I did not apologize for it. The fraud claim is processing, I said. Harlan will be made whole. My license review is ongoing, and I expect it to resolve in my favor based on the documentation. Brianna needs to speak to an attorney. I cannot help with that, Damien, she said. The management was gone. What was left was smaller. I didn't think it would go this far. That was the closest she came to an apology. I noted it. I filed it in the part of my understanding that I keep for things I have verified and will not need to verify again. I know you didn't, I said. But it did. I got off the phone. Noelle was in the kitchen. She had heard my half of it. She did not ask me to tell her the other half. She poured a glass of water and set it in front of me and sat down. She said I didn't think it would go this far, I said. To you? Noelle said. To me, I said. Later she'll say it to you. She looked at me for a moment. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said. She looked at me the way she looks at me when she knows the word I am using is not the word for what I am describing. She has a particular patience with that gap. She does not push. She sits with it until I find the right word on my own. I'm angry, I said. Okay, she said. Not at Brianna specifically, I said. At the fact that my mother knew before I called her. That Brianna called her first, and they got their version together, and by the time I called, my mother was already in management mode. That has been the sequence my entire life. Something goes wrong with Brianna. Brianna calls Mom. Mom picks her position, and by the time I'm in the conversation, the position is already set. I'm always walking into a room where the furniture has already been moved. Noelle said nothing for a moment. Then she said, "You filed the report." Yes, I said. That changes the sequence, she said. Yes, I said. We sat at the kitchen counter for a while. The apartment was quiet in the way it gets after 2 in the morning, when the city outside is not quite silent, but the specific noise of the day has ended. I drank the water. Noelle made tea, and we sat with it. We went back to sleep around 4. When we woke in the morning, my mother and Brianna were already gone. No note. The pull-out was folded back up. The guest room door was closed. They had left before either of us was awake, which told me that neither of them had wanted to be in the apartment when I woke up and was still myself. Noelle told me 3 days later that my mother had called her. She said Faye had been calm and careful, which meant she was doing what she does when a situation has hardened into something she cannot manage with a phone call to me. She had asked Noelle to talk some sense into Damien. She had said the family did not need this. She had said Brianna was already falling apart, and that a criminal charge would destroy her. Noelle had said he filed a police report because a felony was committed. Faye. Then she had hung up. 2 days after that, I received a call from an attorney representing Brianna. He was professional and clear. He said his client had authorized him to convey that she accepted full responsibility for the unauthorized use of the card, and that she was prepared to repay the full $7,843 directly to the affected client account within 30 days, as a condition of my withdrawing the police report and cooperating with a resolution that did not involve criminal proceedings. He said this was in the interest of all parties. He said the criminal process would be costly, time-consuming, and difficult for my sister. He was not wrong about any of that. I said nothing for 10 seconds. I counted them the way I had counted the 11 seconds of my mother's silence. I was not preparing a speech. I was making sure I had the right number and the right word. I said no. The attorney said he understood, and that his client reserved the right to request reconsideration. I said that was her right. We got off the call. Noelle was at her desk grading when I came out of my office. She looked up. Brianna's attorney, I said. And? No, I said. She nodded once and went back to grading. That was the conversation. Some things do not need more words than they need. The fraud claim resolved 3 weeks later. The bank reversed the $7,843 to Harlan's escrow account in full. The Arizona Board of Accountancy reviewed my documentation and closed the complaint, noting that I had taken appropriate and timely action to protect the client's account and report the unauthorized use. My license was not affected. The criminal case did not go away because I did not drop the report, and Harlan's attorney did not withdraw. Brianna accepted a plea agreement 4 months later. Supervised probation, community service, full restitution to Harlan's account on a payment schedule her attorney negotiated with his. No prison time. The Class 3 felony was reduced to a Class 6 through the plea. 3 months after the Thursday night my mother was told the class and the sentence range, I had dinner with Noelle in our kitchen, and she asked me how I was doing with all of it. Not the legal part. She already knew the legal part. The fraud claim had resolved. The board had closed the complaint. Brianna had a plea deal and a payment schedule and 2 years of supervised probation that she had just started. Harlan's account was whole. My license was intact. The legal part had resolved the way it resolves when the documentation is complete and the sequence of events is clear and the reporting party does not withdraw. The other part was harder to itemize. I thought about it for a moment. My mother and I were speaking, not often and not the way we had spoken before, but we were civil in the way of two people who have survived a serious disagreement and have chosen not to exit each other's lives over it, while also not pretending the disagreement did not happen. She had not said she was sorry in the direct way. She had not revisited the Sunday night phone call or the words she had used. What she had done was stop using the management voice with me, which was either an apology or a recalibration, and I had decided it did not matter which. My mother and I were speaking, not often, and not with the ease we had before, but we were civil in the way of two people who have decided that the relationship is worth maintaining in a reduced form while the full form is not yet available. The reduced form looks like this. She calls on Sunday afternoons. The calls last between 8 and 15 minutes. She asks about work, about Noel, about plans we might have. She does not ask about the case. She does not mention Brianna unless I do. She does not revisit Sunday night, or what she said on the phone, or the 11 seconds of silence. What she has done is stop using the management tone with me. She does not organize her position before she speaks anymore. Or if she does, the organization is less visible. She sounds, on those Sunday afternoon calls, more like a woman talking to her son, and less like a manager running a client conversation. Whether that is change or performance, I cannot determine from the outside, and I have decided at some point that it does not matter which, because the result is the same and the result is livable. She came to our apartment for dinner in November, the first time she had been back since September. She sat at the kitchen counter and talked to Noel while I cooked, and nobody mentioned anything, and the dinner was good, and when she left she hugged me the way she used to hug me, both arms, actual pressure. The way you hold something you were afraid of losing. I noted it. I did not say anything. I just noted it. Brianna called me once, 3 weeks after the plea. She said she was sorry. She said it in the straightforward, undecorated way of someone who has been through a process that removes the comfortable versions of a story and leaves only what actually happened. She said she had not known it was a client card. I said I believed her. She said she was paying Harlan back on the schedule. I said I knew. There was a silence, and then she said, I didn't look at the card. I said I knew that too. We did not talk for long. But we talked. Harlan Beck and I are still working together. He has not referred anyone new to me since September, which I understand and do not take personally. That will come back in time or it will not, and either outcome is something I can work with. He checks in monthly instead of quarterly now. I answer every time he calls, and I send him account reports on his schedule without being asked. The trust between us is different now. Not broken. Restructured, I had told him the truth before he could ask me, and he had not forgotten that, and neither had I. The wallet is on my nightstand. 2 slots. Personal card on the left. The right slot is different now. Where the business card used to sit, I keep a folded index card with my CPA board license number and my professional liability insurance policy number. Not because I need to access those numbers often. Because when I open my wallet and look at the right slot, I want to see something that reminds me what the slot is for and what it costs when the wrong thing gets into it. Harlan's card is in a locked drawer at my office now, where it always should have been. My mother said I was acting poor. The account my sister drained held $220,000 that belonged to a man who trusted me with it. Acting poor had nothing to do with it. What it had to do with was the difference between someone else's money and mine, a difference I have built my entire professional life around understanding, and a difference that my family, in one night, came close to erasing. They did not erase it. The license is intact. The client is whole. The right slot has an index card in it instead of a card that was never meant to leave my office. And the next time someone tells me to stop acting poor, I will know exactly which number to read them. I built this practice one client at a time, one trust relationship at a time, one careful decision at a time. The license, the escrow accounts, the 2-slot wallet, the immediate notification settings on the business card. All of it was built to protect something that was not mine and to be the kind of person who could be trusted with what was not his. That is the whole job. That is the only thing the job is. My sister needed a good night. I understand that. In the way you understand things about people you have known your whole life and cannot stop caring about even when they cost you in ways that take months to calculate. She needed a good night, and she took the wrong card, and she signed her name 3 times, and she set something in motion that neither of us could stop once it started. But the account is whole. The client is intact. The right slot has an index card in it with 2 numbers on it that represent everything I have built. That is enough. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales. If someone has ever treated your professional responsibility like a personal ATM, drop it in the comments. We read every single one,